Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to covering the new Roseanne revival show and the recent phenomenon surrounding it. Reports of the show's outstanding ratings are still pouring in after last week's premiere. Hollywood Reporter even has an article called Roseanne Ratings Climb, hit 25 million viewers with time-shifting record. This is a big deal, especially after the show's 20-year break. Coming back with this many viewers and an obscene 7.3 rating on the Nielsen scale, that says a lot. America wanted more Roseanne, clearly, that's for sure. And I also think it's fair to say the show has returned to form on ABC. And not only did its first new episode premiere last week, they also actually played episode 2. Now, we already reviewed the premiere one, the first one, so I think it's about time we got to the second episode. It's called Dressed to Impress, and episode 2 features a more in-depth look at the Connor family's new grandkid, Mark, who also happens to be trans or gay or just a cross-dresser. Whatever it is, we're gonna find out soon, because I don't think we're too sure yet on that question. All we saw last episode was the kid, a boy, wearing pink and other girls' clothes, so I guess we'll see where that goes. Now, without further ado, let's see where Roseanne goes in this new episode.
Come on, Andrea's coming over tomorrow. You guys could blow $50,000 for me if she decides not to use me as a surrogate. Could you please put away anything you got free with the tank of gas?
Oh, I see what you're doing, Becky. You don't want her to think we're poor white trash. You know what would help that? Don't have a yard sale in your uterus.
Things start off with the older daughter, Becky, cleaning the house. She plans on becoming a surrogate mother for someone to make money, and that someone is coming over to meet the family, which would normally be an okay situation, but Becky, of course, is part of the Connor family, who's a bit dysfunctional, to say the least. This is also a reoccurring theme and story of the season, the question of whether or not it's okay for a woman to sell her eggs and give birth to a baby for another family. The Connors struggle with this issue, Becky, of course, being all for it because she's pretty desperate for money, and Roseanne and Dan are a bit against it since they would still consider that baby part of their family, it coming from their daughter's womb after all. And I have to say, I side with Roseanne on this one. That baby will still be a Connor, like it or not, and in a way, their family will still be obligated to it. Women selling their eggs should really never be an option. Not a good one, that's for sure. It should only be used in certain dire situations, like if the surrogate mom is having a baby for a close relative who can't get pregnant, or if the surrogate is truly so broke they are going to live on the streets or something. You gotta be really, really desperate, and from the looks of it, Becky doesn't seem that bad off. Sure, she appears to be poor and working class, but she does have a job and a place to live and stuff like that. So I don't see her as that desperate. Not as desperate as this extreme measure calls for, if you ask me.
Please don't be like this tomorrow. I know you've all seen normal people. Can you pick one and act like that?
Hey, everybody. Tomorrow's the first day at my new school. How does this look?
Next, the new grandson Mark comes down the stairs in his flashy and flamboyant new outfit. This was introduced in the previous episode like the Becky story. Darlene's kid Mark here loves dressing like a girl apparently. And of course, Roseanne and Dan are having a little trouble dealing with this new generation of trans, liberal, cross-dressing oddballs. Some might call them freaks. And right from the beginning, Dan makes a great point with his joke. Mark is going to need to run at school if he dresses like that, because kids will try and pick on him undoubtedly.
Darlene, you talked to Mark about wearing that outfit to school, right? He's gonna get beat up, sure as hell.
He'll be fine. He wore stuff like that all the time in Chicago.
The musical?
Next, after the intro, Dan insists Darlene say something about Mark wearing these girls' clothes. And I think this is a fair thing to ask for. He's not saying to attack the kid for being gay or anything. He just may have to dress a little different when he goes to school. If he doesn't want to get beat up, that is. It's kind of like being a kid who wants to dress up like Batman for school when it's not Halloween. Sure, it's not the end of the world if he does it, but parents can save their kids a lot of grief if they do something about it beforehand. And wearing things you don't necessarily like to school shouldn't be a big deal anyway. I mean, I went to Catholic school up until 8th grade, where they had a pretty strict uniform policy. We had to wear white collared shirts and navy blue pants or shorts, and that was it. And I don't see how kids at public schools having to wear something neutral is a problem. It's not even like the kid has to wear overly manly clothes. He just needs to cut back on all the pink colors and the mini skirts.
He just likes to wear clothes like that sometimes. I've read a bunch of books about it, and they all say to let him just be who he is. He gets good grades, he's happy for a Connor, and I mean, that's all I really care about.
You know, as a life coach.
Sounds like Darlene is buying into this modern, hands-off parenting style all the millennials are using nowadays. Free-range children is what I call them, and they act as wild as they sound. In my opinion, it's okay to let your kids dress up however they want, sure, but when you go out into public places, particularly school, it's also okay to give them some guidelines. I also think a big part of the reason Mark is doing this cross-dressing thing is because gay and trans agendas are getting pushed so hard by the liberal media these days. It's hip and cool to be trans, and that's why more and more kids are going for it now. It's not actually because they're confused about their gender or anything, it's because they want the attention.
Kudos kudos to Darlene for letting Mark be himself. I mean, given the choice, who knows how many children would choose a style different from what society has assigned to them.
Thank you, Aunt Jackie.
Aunt Jackie, of course, still represents the hardcore liberals here. They always try and blame this amorphous, ambiguous society for everything, including male and female gender roles here. The truth is, society reflects the roles that genders naturally gravitate to, not the other way around.
It's okay if you think it's fine that he plays dress up around the house, but if you care about his safety, you'll make him wear pants to school.
Oh, so you're saying when he's out of the house, he's got to pretend to be someone he's not?
Yes. If I didn't do that, we'd never be able to cash a check anywhere.
Truth. Acting different out in public isn't the end of the world. Sensitive lefties act like they should be able to go into public and wear and say and do whatever the hell they want, with no limitations. Well, that's not how the real world works, Darlene. And having your kid wear something normal to school isn't going to hurt anything. In fact, it may just help the kid from being hurt and beat up by bullies. Of course, those bullies are in the wrong, and they should be stopped, but there's also no reason to give fuel to their fire.
I'm totally cool with girls who like basketball, boys who like sewing, but you're dreaming if you think he isn't in for a world of hurt.
Yeah, and we're totally not bigoted because we already came to terms with the fact that you were gay.
I'm not gay.
Next, they joke about Darlene being gay, probably because she looks like a lesbian, which is probably because that actress is a lesbian, hence this joke. This is followed by Darlene taking her daughter to school, while Roseanne agrees to take Mark, but not before they have a little conversation about things.
Do you feel like you're a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Well, you answered that pretty quick. I thought it was going to be more complicated. So what's up with the girls' clothes?
This just feels like me. I like colors that pop. It's more creative.
This is pretty much the perfect response from Roseanne, and potentially a more conservative parent dealing with something like this. She questions the kid gently, making sure to see if he's gay or trans or something, and then she advises him on how hard it will be at school dressing like that, which is true, and a good thing for a parent to do, or in this case a grandparent. Roseanne didn't pry too much or force it either, and that's really all you can ask for. Sometimes you can only help your kids so much, and eventually they gotta go out and learn their lessons for themselves. When Roseanne finally takes Mark to school, he gets called a freak by a classmate right away. This prompts Roseanne to give this heartwarming speech.
I think you guys are really going to like Mark because he is a lot of fun and he's very fashionable. Sometimes he wants to wear a dress or a real fancy top. I think he's going to grow up and be a fashion designer, a really famous one, like TJ Maxx or...
Another great way to look at it. Mark is just fashionable, that's all. He'll probably turn out gay one day, but for now we don't really know. He's too young. It could just be a phase too. We'll see. But the best part here is Roseanne is backing up her kid no matter what. Sure, her and Dan have their worries, but at the end of the day, the Connor family still supports Mark fully, despite his style choices.
Hi, I'm her Aunt Jacqueline, and I am Lanford's leading life coach. And as such, I respect the powerful process you must be going through to build your family.
Thank you. My husband Richard and I are just so grateful that Rebecca is willing to go on this journey with us.
Journeys!
Here we see Jackie meeting the woman Becky wants to be a surrogate for. They talk about going on a journey, because that's what all pregnant women call their stories nowadays. It's a pregnancy journey, a weight loss journey. I'm sure you've seen someone post junk like this on Facebook at least once. And it's also worth noting that this chick is played by Sarah Chalk, who also played the Becky character on Roseanne for a few of the later seasons, when the original actor left the show. And it looks like this revival decided to bring both Beckys back. And I guess the only way they could do it was by recasting the second Becky as this wannabe mother. Next, Mark comes home from school, but he appears to have gotten in trouble. Darlene confronts Dan because Mark was caught with a pocket knife at school, which Dan gave him. He didn't tell him to take it to school, of course, but Mark did anyway. This prompts Darlene to go after Dan, who claps back with this bit about masculinity.
I know why you gave Mark a knife. It's to turn him into your version of a boy.
First of all, I didn't know there were that many versions. And yeah, I admit I was happy he liked it. He's got a pocket knife now. I'm hoping it's a gateway to having pockets.
So you admit it, you were trying to make him more masculine.
When did masculine become a dirty word?
When did masculinity become a bad word? There's nothing wrong with being male, just like there's nothing wrong with being female. But unfortunately, the liberals and leftists who are also running our schools, of course, they don't really see it that way. To them, masculinity is evil or toxic, remember? And everything female is good and perfect and pure, for some bullshit reason. In the end, the messages here are pretty simple. It's okay to let your kids be themselves, which includes letting them dress how they want. But if they're going out in public, especially to school, you might want to warn them about bullies and encourage them to wear something different maybe. If not, that's cool too. It's not the end of the world. In fact, if your kid is strong and brave enough like Mark here, he can afford to be bold and different, and that's more power to him. The other storyline with the surrogate baby appears to be carrying on to a later episode too. For now, we know how Dan and Roseanne feel. They're not going to forbid Becky from doing it completely, but they're also against it since they would consider the kid one of their own. Well, it really looks like Roseanne is back in full swing with episode 2 here, this time pivoting away from presidential politics for the most part. Aunt Jackie still represents the starkly liberal views though, and Roseanne and Dan are still coming off pretty conservative. And seeing this mixed, diverse family deal with these new, more topical, current social issues is a very nice direction for the show. I'm looking forward to the next episode, and I'm hoping to review it here too. If you guys like this video and want to see another Roseanne review, make sure you leave a like and comment below more Roseanne. Also, tell me what you think about the issues of today's episode, about the cross-dressing kid and the surrogate parent. And thanks again for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.